This is Western Fashion Behind the Scenes, hosted by the Boot Babes. In this podcast, we delve deep into the world of Western fashion, exploring its history, trends, and the people who make it happen. With Cowgirls once again taking the spotlight, we bring you stories from the industry's most fascinating characters. Saddle up and join us as we ride into the wild west of fashion. And now, here's your host.
Hey, it's Ashley, the Boot Babe, and I am live on Western Fashion Behind the Scenes with the OG of the fashion world today, which I'm so excited about. Her name is Kenzie, but she's better known as Western Gringa. Welcome. So cute. There's always a long pause in the beginning because people are like, who am I talking to? What you should know is you're talking to thousands of people who are listening weekly, and podcasts are really the future of how people will understand and obtain information, right? The TV's had your eyes for years at this point, it feels like, in my lifetime anyway. And now slowly people are listening to things more than they're watching them. And so this podcast has really become something that's really come alive. So thanks for being here today, Kenzie. Really excited to have you.
Yeah, I'm super excited to do this. I haven't done many podcast interviews, and I'm really thankful that I get to do it with you.
Yeah, it's fun. We've never met. We've met in person, but it was like for 5 minutes one time or 10 times because we're both in the world of Western world, right? So I see you and I'm like, hi. And then you say hi and then we leave, right? Which is the common experience for most of these women in the world.
Yeah, definitely. I wish I had more time to sit down and talk to people one on one, but as I'm sure like you are, and most of us are super busy, and even a vague interaction with each other goes a long way for me. It means something, and in some sort of way, it's still a relationship.
Yeah, for sure. I remember seeing you at Dallas Market not very long ago with your own clothing line, which we're going to talk about in a little bit. But before that, and I just was mesmerized because when I met you in person, first of all, most people don't know how tall you are. So let's just start there. How tall are you?
I am 6 foot, and a lot of guys like to tell me that I'm taller than 6 foot, and the reason they say that is because they wish they were 6 foot.
True. Don't hate. There's a lot of men that listen to this podcast. You know what? She's looking for a 6'7". Okay. I'm just saying. There's gotta be like yeah, dudes that it's very interesting how men describe themselves, right? If you've ever tried to date, very challenging because the way that they describe themselves. I saw recently, so I'm a follower of your social media. Lots of people follow your social media. Tell us a little bit how you got started in the social media world.
So it was really back in 2018 that I fully went into social media. But before that, I was actually a model for a modeling agency in Houston called Neil Hamill. And unfortunately, the modeling world is super strict, and I couldn't handle like the pressure of my weight and everything else that they were putting on me all the time. And so my contract pretty much came to an end. Every year I renewed my contract with them every January. And my contract came to an end, and I decided to not re-sign and just take a break from the modeling world for a little bit. And when I quit, I was already at the time buying like Wranglers and Rocky Mountain jeans and all this stuff on eBay. Like I was a fanatic eBay shopper. This was like in 2017, 2018. So there was like nobody shopping on eBay for these things, like except for me. So it was a total gold mine, like all the time. And I met a ex-friend of mine who was posting, she was wearing the same things. She was wearing Rockies and Wranglers and all this kind of stuff. And she was posting like cute little like artsy pictures of them online. And I was like, "Well, I could do that." So like, I already buying all this stuff. I might as well just try it. And so that's pretty much where I started it all. And then I moved to Stillwater, Oklahoma with an ex-boyfriend of mine. And I used to make him run around Stillwater and take photos of me everywhere. And then I just started posting a lot and using what was in my personal closet. And it just started gaining traction. And people were like, because I was wearing native made moccasins and cowboy print pants that I had made myself, and big old 10-gallon hats, and just, it was very like eclectic Western. Like it was like a lot of like native type style, but like also like super Western. And it was like, I don't know, it was just different. And it got me a lot of attention for sure. And so I just started off that way. And as I was growing and getting more attraction around Stillwater, I had like smaller boutiques and companies reach out to me and ask if they could send me some stuff. And I did it that way for a little bit. And eventually it got a little bit bigger and a little bit bigger and a little bit bigger. And then in 2020, or not in 2020, I'm sorry, it was in 2018. At the end of 2018, it was right after I broke up with my ex-boyfriend, and I was down in the dumps because that's like a horrible thing to go through and whatever. And I remember I was living with my friend. I moved from Stillwater to Tulsa because I didn't want to leave Oklahoma. And I was living with one of my friends, Maddie, and I got a phone call from like this random number in Mexico. And I was like, hello. And it is it's this guy that worked for Corral Boots. And he was like, do you want to come to New York and do a photo shoot in New York? The whole thing's paid. We want you to style the whole photo shoot, and you're going to be taking pictures with Megan Maroney. And at this time, I didn't know Megan Maroney wasn't like really, she was up and coming, but she wasn't like she was now. And so I was like, oh my, of course I do. And so I tried to play it cool on the phone, and then we hung up. And my friend Maddie remembers I was running up and down the hallway of her house, like screaming my head off. And I was just like, it was, like, all coming together, and eventually I was getting recognized by these huge brands. And so they had a very strict budget with me, and so I went to all these thrift stores, and I put together, I think, 13 or 14 outfits for 13 or 14 pairs of boots, and I styled, like, Megan in half of them and me in the other half. And then went to New York, and the photo shoot was so awesome. It was crazy. I still have pictures of everything, but, it was just, like, such an incredible experience. And then after I came home, I just built upon that and just kept going, and Corral kept reaching out to me, and it just took off from there.
This story is so inspiring because that's what people don't understand. Like, it's you made it happen because you manifested it. That's totally what you did. Like, you knew what you wanted and you put it out there and you said, I'm going to give this my all. And then you got what you wanted, but you are so humble about it. And it's fun because we've all watched you take flight. And now what's going on currently? So you have Corral Boots. And since the Corral Boots, what has happened?
Oh my gosh. Since Corral Merch, there's been so much that happened. I still work with Corral all the time. They're my longest going big brand partner. Actually, they're probably my longest term partner because I don't think any of the small brands I worked with back then, they didn't keep going, but they're with me. This will be my 6th year doing this starting in 2024. And they have been there the whole time since 2018. So they're my longest term partner. But since then, building upon that, it just got like I went to some more like what I break down companies into 3 different groups. Like there's your small business, there's your mid-sized business, and then there's your big business. And so like after Corral, I came back and was obviously working with a lot of small brands. I love working with small businesses more so because I know what it's like to be a small business and start from scratch on something. And I know, like, within reason, I have to make money at influencing and whatnot, but I try to accommodate everybody into it because I want to help everybody get where they want to be with their dream and their goal. And so after Corral, I came back and I worked with some more mid-sized companies. I'm trying to think of some names. Give me just a second. I
It's
would
okay.
say I would say like do what?
Oh, go ahead. No, yeah.
I was just to say maybe some turquoise companies like Turquoise and Co. and Dakota West Leathers and brands like that. They're in the middle, like they're not like corporation or large have stock like in their company, but they're really big for being a private company. I mean, they do really. I definitely was still working with a lot of small businesses more than anything else. And then after doing that for a while, then like the mid-sized companies started coming. And then pretty much 19 and most of 2020, those 2 years is what I spent doing a lot of small business, a lot of mid-sized business. And then I would say around 2021, at the very beginning, is when I started getting more big brands. And then, especially every year that I went to the NFR, that helped tremendously because that's your place as an influencer. That's the place where you show off like biggest time of the year, like your most creative stuff. Like you really show your talents at the NFR. And so after 2021, during 2021, as I'm going through that year, I worked with Boot Barn reached out to me, Samsville Gallery reached out to me, and I worked with Samsville in 2021. And that was so awesome because I was on Cowboy Channel every single day during the NFR, and I was interviewing like all these native artists and stuff for Samsville. And I'm pretty familiar with turquoise, but not in the depths of the people who work at Samsville galleries. And they're like, you're going to interview these huge artists, and basically you have to come up with all these questions and everything about it. And I remember oh my gosh, like I was so nervous because you know how many people are watching Cowboy Channel all the time. And I was hosting it, like I had the floor, no one else was talking, like it was me holding the whole interview. And I remember this is getting off track, but it's very funny to me. It's still one of the funniest things. I remember I can't remember his name, but I was interviewing one of the artists and I said something about what is your favorite turquoise? What's your favorite stone, right? And he's like, Kingman turquoise. And I'm like trying to think of these questions or whatever. And I'm like asking about something about where it's mined or something. And then I asked him, where's Kingman turquoise mined? Like, it's obviously Kingman,
Oh
Arizona.
no. Yeah.
Oh no. And so after the interview, that was like probably the one slip I had. But after that, I was just so nervous I couldn't think, you know what I mean? You're just trying to come up with generic common questions to just fill the space. And afterwards, some of the guys on Samsville, they came over to me and they were like, hey, just so you know, like you said that. And I'm like, I know. I didn't know I didn't know when I was doing the interview that I said that. But then when they told me, and then I watched the interview back and I was like, oh my gosh, like these guys, I think I'm a
Okay,
total
so
idiot.
let's talk about media. Actually, people don't know. So anyone that's watching the Cowboy Channel, they're probably going like, "Where's Kingman Turquoise from?" Because I wouldn't know. So it's like
Yeah.
a logical question, but I totally hear you. I Yeah, I've had some bad bloopers. Things that I'm like, "Oh my god."
I think I was more embarrassed more so because whenever I asked that, the artist I was interviewing laughed at me and was like, "Came from Arizona." I was like, "Oh,
Like,
of
"Hello,
course it
ma'am. Are
is."
you? Who are you? Are you new here?"
Yeah. Anyways, I don't know. Maybe it's not that bad, but I was just so nervous. But like looking back at all of the clips and like the whole interview and everything, it was so awesome to be a part of and everything. And like there were so many commercials going on that were aired in between after the NFR was over. They cut up a lot of the interviews and put them in commercials and whatnot. And then I think the next coolest part was for me was I have a friend in Calgary, Alberta. His name is Cole Robertson, and he had called me one random day, and like I was on the radio like in Calgary, and like my voice was on the radio, and he just like, put the phone on, and I was like, "Wait, what?" I was like,
That's
"Why am I
amazing.
on the radio in Canada?"
That's
But
amazing, though.
yeah, so there were all kinds of like little like bookmarks in, as my growth was going on and whatnot. That was super cool. But definitely 2021 was like really like I was getting on the rise with moving in with a lot of these big companies. And then especially after the NFR was over in 2021, I think being on like Cowboy Channel and working with a brand so big like Samsville really helped launch me to get to other big brands. And it's so crazy. Like I hate leaving out small businesses, but like now at the NFR, I'm pretty much booked up with the big brands only, and that's it. And like this year, I've got a list somewhere, but I'm working with Cavender's, Boot Barn, Wrangler reached out at the beginning of this year, which was huge. And who else? Hoovy. I worked with Hui a lot. I worked with Ranch Water quite a bit. I was actually their first influencer, which was super cool. But yeah, it grew into this whole thing. And every NFR, it's such a, like I said, it's such a great place to show off your creativity and make connections. And and I will say this, that I have a smaller following than other people, but I feel like, and this is something I'm so adamant about, and I tell my assistant all the time, I'm like, shake hands and kiss ass all the time. That's what you do, like all the time. Like these people, a bunch of these older people who run these companies, they don't know anything about social media. They don't know the influencers. They don't know who's popular. They don't know that kind of stuff. And I take the liberty and I don't wait for somebody to introduce me. If I see somebody at a company and I like them or something or whatever, I will walk up to them and stick my hand out and say, I'm Kinsey Auld. This is what I do. I want to talk to you about what I can do for your company. And it could be in the middle of a social event, but I'm not going to wait and I'm not going to wait around. Like I'm going to go get what I want and I'm going to do it. And I think that's part of the reason, even though I have a smaller following than some of these other influencers, I'm working with more bigger brands more often. And I think that's probably one of the biggest things that helps me is that, like, outside of social media, I just always am networking and always sticking my hand out. And I'm not shy. I don't wait for anybody to do it for me. I don't wait around for anybody to introduce me. I don't wait for any of that. Like, I will do it myself. And I think that has a big part of like my mom, how she raised me. Like, so
Aw, I love that. Yay, mom. What's mom's name?
my mom's name is Annie.
Hey.
I
Proud
was actually
Annie.
named after I was actually named after both my parents. My dad's name is Ken, and then my mom's name is Annie. She goes by Ann, and sometimes, but my name is Kinsey Ann.
Aw, I love this. Okay. This is an amazing story, and you are so fun to talk to. So this is interesting because now you're taking me on this journey, right, of your thing. So can you take me, I'm going to pry a little bit, take me on a money journey for people that are listening. There's so many influencers that listen to this and trying to figure it out. Like, where do you start and where do you go? And do you just, when you say I'm doing it, that's you approaching these companies by email or in person or however it looks. You approached most of these companies until they started reaching back because you attained some kind of publicity that worked, right? There's not a really big secret to it. It's just you followed the path of how it works. So talk to me about money a little bit if you're open to that.
Yeah, definitely. So I'll be honest, 2018, 2019, 2020, I almost made nothing. Like there was nothing into it. And there's a lot of people that say it takes 5 years to get a business going, which like both of my parents are entrepreneurs. They both have their own business. And so I've always heard my whole life, it usually takes 5 years to make any kind of return on anything you do. And so knowing that, I was in college when I started it, and then I went to a dental assistant job. I did this and that, whatever, to and like in between on the weekends or after work or whatever it was, I was like, we need to go get a picture. We need to go post something, like whatever it was. I was always trying to make it work because I knew in long term that's what I wanted to do. But I would say towards 2020 was a tight year for everybody with COVID and all that kind of stuff going on. So that was probably the year I started like actually making some sort of money from it, but I would say it wasn't more than $1,000 a month. Like it wasn't when I was working with a lot of small businesses. Of course, I got gifted a lot of items, which like I don't now where I'm at now, I never spend money on clothes. I can't even tell you the last time I went shopping. I just have way too many clothes. And but even back then, in a way, I was looking at if I didn't if I wasn't doing this, then I would have to spend my own money on clothes and whatever. So I guess in the end, it was saving me as I'm like building my dream and it all just balanced out. But yeah, so 2020, I would say I wasn't making very much. But before the thing is, how I guess I'm different than most influencers is that I always knew in the back of my mind that I didn't just want to be an internet persona. I didn't just want to be online. I didn't want to just be famous or popular for a short time and then it just die. And like, I wanted something really substantial to come along with all this time and effort that I'm putting into this. And I, since I was a little kid, I always wanted to design of some sort, not necessarily clothes, but when I was little, I always told my family I wanted to be an interior decorator and whatever. And I've just always had like my own style. And so in 20, about the time I was starting all this influencing stuff, I've been buying all this used vintage clothes on eBay and all this kind of stuff. And some of it I would outgrow, and then some of it I just didn't feel like wearing anymore. I already wore it enough. And I would post it on my Instagram story and sell it, like, and just ship it out. I'd get payments through PayPal or something like that, and then just ship it out to everybody. And eventually, like, that kept going and kept going, and then I was like, "You know what? I'll just buy stuff that's not my size and see if I can still sell it." And so I just started buying in bulk on eBay. Like, I would go on there and spend 4 or $500, and back then you could get a lot of stuff for 4 or $500 on eBay. And I also went to thrift stores. Some people I mean, I used to get asked all the time, "What thrift stores do you go to?" Blah, 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 whatever. I'm telling you, the thrift stores that were the gold mines back in the day in Texas were called Texas Thrift, and there's 4 of them in San Antonio. There's one in Fort Worth, there's one in Austin, I think there's one in Houston, but those were like the gold mines. Like, I could go in there and buy a pair of Rockies for $5 and a cowboy printed button up for $2. Like, it was insane. And so I'd go in there and buy a bunch. I'd buy a bunch on eBay, wherever you could find secondhand stuff, and then I'd sell it on my Instagram story. And then I just came up with the idea that I wanted to design my own clothes. And so I got a sewing machine, and my aunt Sue, she sews a lot, and my the step grandmother, Mary Jane, she also sews a lot. And so those 2 women taught me everything I know about sewing. And I just started doing things like I would get vintage denim jackets at the thrift store and stuff, and I would sew like Western applique fabric on the back and just flip clothes almost. And I started posting those on my Instagram stories, and I was selling like so much. Like, it got to the point where I would post an item and I'd get like 10 messages in a minute. If I want to buy this, here's my PayPal, whatever. I was just like, I don't know what to choose. Like, I don't, it's so much. It's just, I was like, I can't handle this. There were hundreds of messages I was getting when I posted a sale because every time I posted stuff, I would post like 30 items. And so it was just like so much to go through. And back then I was handwriting the addresses on the envelopes and the packages. And it was just like so much. So my mom, she helps me a lot with my business. Like, she really walks me through a lot. She gives me a lot of advice. She's so amazing. Like, she's one of my biggest supporters in my business, like, since day one. And so she told me, she's like, why don't you get a website and we get on Shopify or something, get like their free version or something, and just start with 30 items on there. And so that's what I did. And it just got bigger and bigger. And I was selling a lot of stuff. And eventually I was like, sourcing vintage things were getting a little bit harder because this was like, now we're getting into late 2019 and like people are starting to pick it up. That eBay and these thrift stores, like, that's where you need to go. And my mom, she actually is a printer and she does all of my hoodies. Like to this day, she does all of my hoodies. She prints all of my t-shirts. She does all of those things for me. And I have a friend named Taylor Pena, and she owns Pena Tailata Petals in Bluffdale, a flower shop. And she's an artist and she draws really well, and so I had her draw my first graphic and then I had my mom print it on my first t-shirt, and I sold those t-shirts, and so, like, I'm doing the vintage, but I'm also supplementing a little bit of t-shirts and stuff like that, and just adding on to it a little bit at a time, and then in it was, like, beginning of 2020, which, like, I always hear that yeah, I've heard this a lot actually, that a lot of entrepreneurs start businesses in like one of the historically like worst times ever. And I've heard that a lot. And that's exactly what happened to me. I'm like 20 at the end of 2019, I'm really thinking about designing my own clothes. And then the beginning of 2020 rolls around and I'm like researching and doing all this stuff, trying to figure out how to manufacture, like what I need to do, like all this kind of stuff. I have a hometown friend, her name's Natalie Picard, and her uncle imports and exports a lot. And so I'm like, I Googled, did as much as I could, and I was like, I really need to talk to somebody who like has an idea of how this works. And so I called him and talked to him. He does not import clothes at all. So that's a little different. But anyways, I got some information on how that works and I just got on the internet and like picked up the phone and called and did all this kind of stuff. And so many people like ask me like, how did you do this? What did you do? And I hate to be this person, but I have to tell people it's like giving away your secret family recipe to like your pizza sauce or something. You're not just going to walk up to Wrangler and be like, hey, can you tell me where you manufacture your goods, the name of the manufacturer, and can you hand me all the answers? And I'm like, that's part of the business is that you have to invest the time and the effort, the energy if you want to do it. That's the test. You know what I mean? And I want to help people out as much as I can. And I do as much as I can within reason without just giving away the whole recipe to my business. But so 2020 rolls around, I'm like, I'm gonna do this. And I spent most of 2020 like figuring out how to sketch my stuff I wanted, make samples, draft like on Adobe Illustrator, like the whole nine yards. I have zero experience in this. I taught it all to myself. And like I just got online, figured it out. I like asked my step grandmother and my aunts like how if they knew anything about pattern drafting and this and that and whatever, and just figured it out. And I had all of my samples made, and then all my first collection came in October of 2020. And so that's when I launched my very first collection. And so you can see at the same time as I was doing the influencing stuff, like I wasn't making a whole lot of money at it, but I knew that would benefit this other business that I was trying to create at the same time. And this other business was paying for my bills as I'm trying to build this one. And they're just looping together. And so I came out with my first collection, and within 3 months, I sold out of almost everything. And which was pretty big because I had to order like most of those manufacturers, their minimum order is like 150 units per design. Considering I only have 15,000 followers, which is not that much in the grand scheme of things, because how many of those followers are actually customers? That was a huge deal in 2020. And then after that, I had gotten the rhythm and the gist of like how to manufacture. And I also got the rhythm and gist of how you influence and like how I need to go about it and how my pattern and rhythm in both of them, how often I need to be posting, what I need to do, all that kind of stuff. And I just kept building on top of it. And then 2021, after the NFR, that one was a really big NFR for me. It was very successful. And I came home and just kept building off of that. I came out with another collection. I had more brands reaching out to me. And then 2022 NFR again did even more. Like it just brings more in. And I got approached by this is actually a really funny story. I'm sorry if I'm talking like so much, like where I'm not letting you get a word in.
No,
It's
no,
just like
you're
a lot
okay.
of
This is
information.
good. It's okay. And I even sent you another Zoom link. So we'll switch Zooms in about 2 minutes and it's okay. We'll just keep going. It's good. This is totally
Okay.
okay. Keep going though, because this is good. It's what
Okay.
people want to hear. No, no, no.
I
I'll,
just
I'll cut that part out. It's okay. I'm going to edit it all. This is what people want to hear. And let me tell you something. This is magic. There's something magic. If your superpower is intuition, you're on the right path, girl. I am the intuition queen. Here we go. Keep going. Tell me.
okay. Before I tell the story, so back to the pricing on everything. I would say 2019, 2020-ish, I'm making around $1,000, maybe 1,500 on a good month with my influencing. And then as far as my clothing business goes, I'm honestly trying when I first released my collection, I'm trying to break even. My bread and butter was the vintage and the t-shirts and stuff. That was really easy to sell, didn't have to wait on manufacturing time, all that sort of stuff. So at that point, I would say I was making around 2,500, $3,000 a month, which is what was I, 20 years old, 22 years old at the time? I'm like, that's great. Don't pay my bills. It's fine. And then I'd say around 2021, I'm getting more money and influencing, probably I would say double that. So I'm making around $2,000 a month in influencing. And I'm probably by 2021, I was selling so many hoodies and t-shirts. Like I remember when I first released my Liquor and Cowboys hoodie, that weekend, over the weekend, I sold out of them and I had like over 150. And I remember looking at my Shopify sometimes and it was just net sales, but like my net sales, I was like trying so hard to get it to 10,000. And I was like, this is crazy. Like I'm making so much money at this. And so, yeah, I would say like up until the NFR in 2021, that's where my financial status was at.
Yeah. Good.
If you
Okay,
want
we're gonna have
to
to
go to
switch
the other Zoom
Zooms.
link, I
It's
can
okay.
keep
Yeah,
going
let's
on
click
that.
over to the other one. You're good. You're
Yeah.
good. See you soon. Record this back. Okay, so we're talking about
Perfect.
your
So
journey in 2022. So you're making like, just to recap, you started in 2017, 18-ish, and 17, 18, 19, didn't make so much money doing it. And that would be normal. And then in 20, you made some money, like $1,000 a month, maybe more. Then 2021, really a lot more, double that in influencing at least. And then you started making crazy money doing some interesting things. And you're like the Rothschilds. Have you ever watched a documentary about the Rothschilds and why they're successful? Because their parents
I
doubled
have
down.
not, but I love entrepreneurial movies.
Yes. Okay. You'd love this then. And we'll make a movie about you. I'm like in the movies. I like movies. So but the Rothschilds succeeded because they doubled down on their family and they only made their family wealthy. And they made it so clear that's what their goal was, is to invest in the people that were closest to them. That's why they have their dynasty. So your mom and dad, it's a fabulous story. And it's something that people can aspire to, right? If you're listening to this and you have kids, go get a printing machine and help your kids make clothes. Like seriously, that's what this podcast is for, right? Because your story is really inspiring. Because how old are you now?
I'm 27.
Okay, great. When's your birthday? What month?
December 18th, so it's coming up.
During NFR this year? No. Yeah.
It's the
Oh, no, 2 days
2 days after it's over.
Yeah, sorry, me
Yeah.
getting so excited. It might be an NFR. Well, we could have a birthday party there. Okay, so 26 years old, going to be 27. So exciting. And yeah, this is an inspiring story. And this is what the future of creation looks like. So it would be really fun. We teach a class called From Source to Sale. It's a 9-week boot camp. And I would love to have you as an expert, obviously, because no, we don't want to give away the secret sauce. And that's what's magic is even if you gave away your secret sauce, they wouldn't be able to do it like you. And they wouldn't be able to create like your synergy and your magic is so exclusive to you. And that's what people realize when they get around me for long enough, or the Boot Babes, or Western fashion behind the scenes, is that we all have our own magic. And I want to hold the space for you to be the most brilliant you ever, because you're the only color of diamond that there ever will be. So I'm so fascinated by that. So think about that while we continue to talk about this. And tell me, so now it's 2024 and you're going to NFR and you're working with these bigger brands. And what do you hope to what are your concern what do you hope to have happen? And then what are your concerns about this year?
One of my concerns this year is not my new assistant is like probably the best one that I have ever had. And but this is her first time at the NFR, and I tried to explain to her that at the NFR, I don't really eat, I don't really drink water, I don't really typically lose anywhere from 5 to 10 pounds when I'm there because I'm just all over the place, and a lot of people think that the NFR is just so fun and this glamorous thing and, like, whatever. I'm throwing on clothes, throwing off clothes, screaming at an Uber to cut stop. I'm late to this. I gotta get to that. I'm all over the place. It is just a mess. And then I'm like, I got two cell phones, and Hunter has her phone. My assistant's name is Hunter. She's got her phone, and I like give her like all three phones, and I'm like, send the Google Drive, do this. You know what I mean? We gotta go. And then somebody else is tapping on my shoulder, and they're like, Kinsey, like this person really wants to meet you. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like my post is late to get up. I'm just like, okay. And then I just shove everything to Hunter, and I'm like, I gotta go do this. So like it's just oh my gosh, like it is all over the place and it is crazy. But like I said, it's like the bonus like paycheck of the year. Like I make more money there than any other time. And it also is like huge for growth, huge for networking, huge to show off your creativity. It's just like the like most epic time of the year. And I've always heard in the Western industry, like a bunch of people say we work all year around for this. And so that's pretty much what it is like. So yeah.
So where are you staying this year?
So I'm staying at MGM again. This will be my second partnership, my second year with them. Last year, I think they only offered like 4 nights, but I told them that, hey, I'll be like the MGM girl at the NFR if you guys can cover me all 10 nights and give me this XYZ like kind of thing and kind of negotiate with them a little bit. And that's one thing that I actually like a tip for anybody listening that wants to become an influencer. Like at the beginning, I think one of the most scared things for me was like I was afraid to negotiate or say no. Like I'm within reason. At the beginning, when you're trying to grow and actually make yourself somebody online that people know, I would say that it's good to just go with what they say for a little bit. But when you get to a certain point and when you're at that point, do not be afraid to step in and be like, no, I deserve payment. No, I deserve this. Like, I bring a lot to the table. I know my conversion and sales are exceptional. I know that my engagement is exceptional and I can prove all of that. And this is what I want. And 9 times out of 10, especially partnerships like the MGM, if you just research what they make, you can pretty much tell them like this is what I deserve because you can guesstimate their budget, which is another financial tip like in influencing. I every time I work with a brand, especially if it's a big brand, I always search their annual revenue, always, because that's going to tell me what kind of pricing that they can give me. I will, especially if it's a publicly traded company like Boot Barn or Dan Post or somebody like that, it's very easy to tell what they can afford based off their annual revenue for the previous year. So that's what I base everything off of. And then like going back to your mid-sized businesses, they're not going to have that information online, but you can tell by how many followers they have. You can tell by if they attend a lot of shows. You can tell by how much they're really selling and how much they can really afford. And I kind of compare it. If I work with a smaller boot company or something that sells boots for $400, you know what? If I get one pair of boots sold, they can afford, and it costs $400 for a pair of boots, they can pay me $400 for the post. You know what I mean? That's pretty reasonable. So that's a good way to kind of gauge everything and especially if it's a really good product, because I'll be honest, I even gauge sometimes, like, if I know a company has a product that's not so strong, like it's not as strong as some other brands, like some people might find it cool, but people follow me for my style and like, what I prefer. And if I feel so about a product, I'll give them a little bit better deal because I don't feel like I will be able to push as many sales for them. And that doesn't mean that I'm going to go out and drive 50 miles to Fort Worth or something and go take some like really epic content for this product because I'm giving them a better price. So I'm going to stick around somewhere around Stephenville, and I'm not going to put as much energy and effort. Shouldn't say energy. I'm not going to put as much mileage and all these other kind of
Over.
things into it since I'm giving, yeah, like overhead costs, since I'm giving them a little bit better deal. I'm still going to do a good job on the content and make sure it's as best as it can be in that area. It's just, it is like a varies thing. And that's one thing that I definitely struggled with is I'm so set in stone. I almost like it like a mathematical formula. I charge this much every single time for this and no exceptions. Don't go lower, don't go higher, whatever. And that was a really hard habit for me to break because it's so much easier to just be like, this is my price and I'm not changing it. But if you do that, you're going to lose a lot of business. Like you have to accommodate to everybody. And that was one of the hardest habits for me to break, for sure. So yeah, I don't even remember what was the question again. I get off on these tangents. I'm
This is
sorry.
all good information. You were giving some advice though to girls about how to charge, why to charge that, and what to think about, and how you go about thinking about it. And that's what people want to know, right? How do they go about thinking about what to charge a brand? Hundreds of thousands of people out there in the Western industry, and they're all looking for something to do, have, say. They want to know more. They always want more. And you're providing an outlet for them to know more. So, yeah, you're valuable, but people don't, and people have started to realize they're valuable, but they still don't know how to price themselves. And they're still very uneducated about it. So, this is very helpful information. And so, NFR this year, you talked about your concerns of the catastrophe with the assistant possibly, but I think it'll be great, and I think you're going to totally pull it off, and it will look seamless, and your stories will be great, and it will all be fun. I was going to have an event at the NFR. This is interesting, with the Boot Babes, and I did so much research, and I figured out that not only am I not having an event, I'm not going to try and take anybody's time. I would love to edify people by being able to share whatever it is, right? I'm a big educator, and I think the education part of this industry is where I see people like you going in the future anyway, right? I think we go from what we think we want to then what we think we want more to then what we think we want most to then what are we going to be remembered by, right? And so for you, what do you want to leave as a legacy?
What do I want to leave as a legacy? I honestly, one of the things, and this is so, it sounds so corny, but I can't say I understand completely about people's like insecurities and like being introverted because I have never been that way, but I constantly get messages from girls who are just like, I love how you're so confident and you just, for lack of better words, don't give a shit about what people think or how you wear your stuff or whatever. And I think that was a huge key in why I grew the way I did. But I think one of the things I want to leave with people the most is that feeling more than anything. It's just don't give a fuck. You know what I mean? Just do it. Don't like there's no words for it. That feeling of confidence and all that kind of stuff is I want that part of me that I feel so strongly about. I want it to give it to every single person who is a part of my stuff or looks up to me. You know what I mean? I want to share that feeling. I want to teach them how to feel that way more than anything because that to me is going to go much further than buying some item or whatever. Like they're going to learn and develop that skill from me, and then that skill is going to be passed down to the next person. They're going to plant that seed in one of their friends or be like, this girl, Western Gringa, she really doesn't give a shit and she made me feel that way. And now I get it. And it's not that I wanna be like her, but I get it, and now that's me. And then that girl inspires another girl to be that way, and then it just goes on so forth. I think that, like I said, going back to it, I think that was one of the biggest keys to my success, and if I can do that, you can too. I believe you can. Anybody can do it. So, I think that's definitely one of the things I wanna leave more than anything, and I guess, like, symbolism of that is my clothes, and so the clothes I design, when people wear them, I want them to not just be wearing this and be like, "Oh, it's a Western Gringa." I want them to be like, "It's Western Gringa." I remember when I watched this girl online, the way she made me feel, she constantly reminded me, "Don't give a fuck. Just wear it. Just do it." And I think that's what I want to symbolize in my clothes, but more importantly, that feeling, that confidence, that skill is what I wanna leave in everybody when I'm all said and done with this.
Yes, that's amazing though. That's so you're really selling wellness and light and love, and in your little charade is clothes. And it's a good deal. That's what people want. They're starving for love, and you're so lucky. You got amazing mom, sounds like, and maybe amazing parents, and you have this support system that most people, right, they have to figure out how to build that, and sometimes they never get that, right? You look at the most successful people in the world, and typically they had very successful, amazing parents. So I love this story, and there's so much to learn here. And thanks for telling us all about that. Where do we find your clothes?
So my clothes are always sold online on my website, but this year I am opening wholesale, which I know you had seen that at market, and I'm opening wholesale for the first time, and I've got some Western wear stores and some boutiques, some online boutiques, and then some Western wear stores, and the biggest ones I've landed this year, which I thank God so much for this, but you can buy my clothes in Teskey's in Weatherford, and you can also buy them at Fincher's Western wear store in Fort Worth, which are probably the 2 biggest accounts I landed with.
Yeah,
Um,
girl.
and then thank you. I have to go in there and do content for them, showing that you can buy my clothes in there, which I'm so excited about, but it's just and I have some awesome boutiques that sell my stuff online too, but I never thought that having my stuff in the Western wear stores would come first almost. Joey Austin is one of my biggest mentors, and I asked him, I'm like, "What do I do? Help me." I don't I need to know where to go with all this. And he was like, "Well, you need to go to bigger Western some bigger boutiques, like Savannah Sevens and all them, and reach out to them, and if they're selling out of your stuff, then you'll start getting phone calls from these Western wear stores and, like, whatever, wanting to carry your stuff." And I was like, "Of course, yeah, I'm gonna reach out to them and try every avenue I can." But I was like, "You know what? Screw it." I just got in my Cadillac Seville and I went down to Teskey's and Fincher's and all this stuff, and I walked in with my samples in my hand, and I said, "I'd like to talk to one of your buyers." And that's the thing, that's goes into my whole message of not giving a fuck, like, rejection does not scare me, and so I'm like, "What's the worst that can happen?" You know what I mean? They say no, but I'm still on their radar. They're like, "Who's this 6 foot, like, rock and roll cowgirl looking thing?" And I'm like, "That I will always be burned into their mind," you know what I mean? So, they're gonna come back around. So I'm like, "You know what? It doesn't hurt to try." And, like, when I went into Teskey's, I went and talked to one of their buyers, and I laid all my samples, like, perfectly on the table, and I gave her, like, a 20-minute speech of why, like, she should buy my stuff, and I'm done talking, like, my armpits are sweating, like, I'm just, I'm so nervous, and I'm waiting there for her response. She's, like, quiet for a minute, and then she's like, "Okay, yeah, we'll buy them." And I was like, "What? Oh my gosh." I was like, "Girl, you have me freaking out." Oh my gosh. So, yeah, and I, like, go get in my car and I'm literally about to start crying right now. I, like, sat in my car and I just started crying and I just started praying to God, and I was like, "I can't believe that my mom has pushed me so hard since the day I was born to just go after what I want no matter what, and I just did it, and I want other people to feel so strongly that way and have such purpose because I can't even explain the kind of feeling. Like, it's not about the money, it's not about anything else. Just the purpose and like the fact that God gifted people the ability to go and do these things and accomplish them. It's changed my whole life. So I know it's just close, but it is so like powerful and I want everybody to feel that way because I know and it sounds so corny to say it, but the saying is true. If I can do it, you can do it too. And like it's so amazing that God gifts people with such I'm so thankful that he gifted me with such being an extrovert and putting out my personality and being so honest and blunt with people and yeah, it's gotten me in some trouble before, don't worry, but like in the end, like it really got me where I wanted to be and I'm just so that purpose, I just want everybody to feel that more than anything.
I know, it's good. I do know. I feel this way. You got me crying my little eyes out over here because girl, I sold Cowgirl Tough jeans for Lisa Bolin, who created Cowgirl Tough. She didn't even have jeans, and I brought them to Utah, Colorado, and Wyoming, and I would drive around and just walk in with my samples and put them on the desk and do the same exact thing. And I remember this lady, Sandra Palaga from IFA, a big chain store here in Utah. It was the first big chain store I'd ever walked into. I remember my heart was racing like crazy, and I just walked in and I was like, I need to see your buyer. And they were like, she's over here. Because this is not normal. You'd normally call, make an appointment. I thought, well, I'll be burned in their brain if I don't. And I sat down, I told her the whole thing, and she said, and looked at me and she said, okay. And I said, what? And she wrote like a $60,000 order, and I got paid like $6,000 in commission. And I thought that the world was like, it was like something out of a crazy dream. And this is where having that kind of support and your cheerleaders around you and building a community of women that wear cowboy boots that feel like this is that's why I do these podcasts. So you're making me cry for like 7 reasons, right? I'm crying because I'm like, oh, this is what I want on here so much. This is the story. And it's true. You can do good things and you can do good things with the light. And God is a part of that. And there's a part of that for everyone. Sometimes people are a little nervous around this idea that we have a superpower, right? And our superpower is to be able to intuitively know where to go, what to say, how to be. And people say, oh, that's confidence and you look confident. Actually, you're tapped into this channel of light. And it sounds like your mom has this channel of light too. And that channel of light or that cloak of light, it's exhibited by what we wear. I say cowboy boots are part of your personality. So is clothing, and so is whatever you're wearing that day, right? That is showing someone your light. So you're literally giving people your light, like little pieces of your light everywhere you go and lighting up the world. And that's amazing. That's what we want. That's why I'm like your biggest cheerleader. I'm over here like, hi, every time I see you, and you're like, hi, and we're like, bye. And then we're like, oh, who's that girl? She's burned into my brain forever. She's amazing. I want to create that. So I want to create an event with you so much to where we bring women together and we talk about this stuff because this is the stuff that gets people moving, right? Momentum. Some people, a lot of women feel really stuck. They're really stuck because of fear. They're scared to speak. They're scared to. And how do we break out of that? So I guess one of my questions and what you want to do is teach people. So when you're having a hard time, what do you do? What is your tool to feel better?
Oh, to feel better? Honestly, and I don't know if this is the healthiest thing, but
Okay.
to feel better, I put my nose back into work and I go get something that's gonna make me feel better. I go get another job. I go get another brand deal. I don't one brand tells me no, I'm gonna show them that it was a bad idea to tell me no. And not in a spiteful way, but it's I'm gonna go get another brand and I'm gonna do this for them, and then you're gonna wish that I had done that for you.
You're going to
And
use the
I mean,
rejection as fuel, and that's good.
yeah, I don't really have so many outlets of I used to party and do all that kind of stuff and drink a lot and whatever. That was my past life, but now I'm so like dedicated to the dream and like what I want that the only way to get my high back or like to get the momentum going again is to go get another one. And honestly, another woman, I have so many and I love the Western community, honestly. Like I know people love to say like it's so harsh and people talk so bad and all this kind of stuff in the Western community. There are so many people that don't know. I didn't grow up on a super big ranch. I didn't have all this no one knew who I was. And I put myself out there, and I've had some older folks and, like, some people my age and some people, like, middle age, all this kind of stuff that just were drawn to me, like you're saying, that light, and just helped me and moved me so much. And, like, another one, well, she's almost like my second mother, is Lorinda Van Newkirk. She did Gypsy Soul, and then now she has Lucky Chuck. And, like, honestly, whenever I started, like, after market, I was like, "I need to fill my pre-orders, like, I've got X amount of thousands of dollars that I need to pay for my clothing line," and I just went as my own salesman and went out and just all over the place, and I would call her every time I walked out of a store, and I was like, "I don't think they're really gonna buy," or, like, something, whatever me. She, like, wouldn't even waste any time saying anything else. She'd be like, "Go get another one." And I'd be, like, hanging up the phone, and then I'd call her and let her know. And I'd call her and say, "Teskey's went for it," and then she's like, "Good, go get another one." Like, she just keep and she understands that thing that gives you that high, that keeps going, that makes you feel better. It's not sulking, it's not being like, "Poor me, like, they why didn't they like me?" Like, they will like you one day, just don't waste your time thinking about why they didn't wanna buy from you this time or why they didn't choose you as an influencer this time. They will. Prove them wrong. Go get another one. Go get another one. Go do it again, you know what I mean? And one of the quotes that is so true, and it's so simple, it's just, "If you don't quit, it will happen. Just don't quit." That's it. It's, like, pretty easy, you know?
Yes. Relentless, persistence, and those are muscles
Yeah,
that you cultivate. You have been cultivating them for a long time, and the ability to handle rejection. These are all things that those are soft skills that most women would die to have more of. Like, they're just like, "Hey, how do I learn this from someone?" So this is a powerful podcast, and this will help a lot of women feel like they can have the ability to do this. So if you're listening to this podcast right now and you're like, "That is me. I want to learn from this girl and I want to have fun and I want to be part of a community that is full of women who wear cowboy boots." Keep listening and go like the podcast and share it. Western Gringa, you are amazing, Kens. You're one of a kind magic. Do you feel misunderstood by people?
definitely. I think I want everybody to be a one percenter, but I know that's what make me not a one percenter, but I always feel like one percenters are completely misunderstood by the world and judged more harshly. I'm put on a pedestal that's not realistic, but I just it's the thing is if you just don't pay attention to that stuff, it won't affect you in any way. And I'll constantly hear things like, "Oh, so and so said this about her. She's this way or something." I just shut up. I'm just like, I'm done. I don't care. Go ahead. Go sit in a room and talk about your 5 friends who watch me online every day. That's fine. Like, I don't care.
I hear you. This is
So,
so powerful. Yes, you're right. And it's true. There is a beauty in not caring what other people think, and it's none of your business what other people think about you, which is really healthy and can have a huge effect on your mental health if you realize that. I'm very grateful you're here today. We're going to catch up with you more soon. I want to know where, so if they go to your social media, how do they find you? Western Gringa on Instagram?
yeah, so I'm Western Gringa on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok, and Pinterest. I've made them all the same name, so it's really easy to find me everywhere.
Okay. And I will be putting all that up and a link to this. And if you're listening to this right now, make sure you go add her so that you can watch her at the NFR, which is the National Finals Rodeo. If you're new here at Western Fashion Behind the Scenes, this is your host, Ashley, the Boot Babe. I am committed to sharing stories about women who wear cowboy boots, and this girl is an amazing example. What is your favorite pair of cowboy boots before we leave? I want to know about, actually, don't tell me favorite. That's not even fair. Where'd you get your first pair? Let's ask that question.
Actually, ironically, my very first pair came from Corral Boots.
Woo! What did they look like?
They were, like, brown, and they had little cutouts. It was, like, made of butterfly, and the butterfly was, like, rainbow color.
Okay, and how old were you when you got these?
I wanna say I was, like, probably in 5th or 6th grade. They weren't like my first pair of cowboy boots, but they were like my first real like pair. As you're growing up, you have like cheap little runaround things, but like my first real pair of like genuine cowboy boots, that was them.
Yeah, and where'd you grow up? Just for everybody.
I grew up in Southwest Texas, so it's about 30 miles north of Uvalde. I went to high school in a little town called Lakey.
Oh my gosh, the middle of nowhere. I love that. One percenters always grow up in the middle of nowhere. I love this. Like I joke,
Yeah,
My
it's
House on the
literally in
Prairie
the middle of
meets John Wayne. It
nowhere.
was like my childhood. So yes, I get it. You're okay. So thanks for being on today. I'm so excited. We'll talk to you soon. This is Ashley on Western Fashion Behind the Scenes. Share this podcast. And remember, it's always time to wear a cowboy boot. This episode of Western Fashion Behind the Scenes is brought to you by the Boot Babe VIP Posse, where they're planning their trip to Nashville right now. Are you interested in traveling the world with women who love cowboy boots? Now is your chance. Go to thebootbabes.com and find out more. The Boot Babes are a group of women that are fiercely committed to ensuring that Western traditions live on forever, and of course, wearing cowboy boots full time. Thanks for listening to Western Fashion Behind the Scenes. If you loved this episode, go ahead and share this with your friends and please give us a great review. Thanks so much.